Okay, Stan, why don't you tell the group about existing conditions at Lexington Center and what the feasibility study showed?
Yeah, I think that one of the key things that became clear early on in this process is that while Rupp Arena gets a lot of the attention, including this morning, this is really something about much broader than that and a much bigger opportunity for downtown and for the city and for this region than the Lexington Center and Rupp Arena. That's the heart and the icon, as Holly said, about downtown for the city and Rupp for the downtown. But what the opportunity is illustrated here on this slide, which is all that yellow area are areas that for the most part today are surface parking lots. 46 acres total when you count the Lexington Center, the gray box, owned by the city, in public hands, in the middle of a major American downtown. But I think most would say there's clearly some underutilization there. There's an opportunity for economic growth. There's an opportunity to create a real place. The mayor of Columbus, Brent mentioned when he asked us when we went to visit, well, who owns all the land that you're talking about? We said, well, actually the city owns almost all of it. He said, oh my gosh, that took us 3 years just to assemble property. So the opportunity is there. It's a really diverse 46 acres, and the context is diverse. That's what makes Lexington, its downtown, unique. We have great neighborhoods, great historic fabric. We've got 19 acres up on the High Street lot. I think Bill and others maybe salivate when they look in the big picture of that. Flat land, 19 acres assembled right in the middle of downtown next to a major venue. We've got the Town Branch Creek, which unfortunately in Lexington somehow we've forgotten. The heart of our city, the genesis of our city, founded along the banks of that creek. You can see it exposed as you go west, but part of the idea, which I'll talk a little bit more about, is making that a little bit more manifest and making that a centerpiece. And we've got other opportunities to reinvent, both architecturally and from a development perspective. The master planning team led by Space Group came in the interview, and I think that they demonstrated that they saw what this was all about by this diagram. They said, we spent some time, they were from Norway, said, we've tried to understand this town, we've tried to understand what makes it special. One thing that's very unique about this city is it has a very small and compact, walkable downtown, really just on 3 streets, with neighborhoods right up next to it. You never build an interstate through the middle of downtown like most cities. It's very walkable, but yet it's actually relatively constrained. Rupp Arena, which is where that line goes through, is kind of the end of the earth, unfortunately, in a way, today from a development and placemaking perspective. It's kind of the end of downtown, the western end. But I think in the future, their point was it can really truly be the center of a longer and more expanded downtown. If you look to the west, there's even more underutilized property, an industrial mixed-use district, the distillery district. There's the opportunity to tie into more neighborhoods and to really create and expand downtown economically over time. And then Rupp and the Lexington Center, I've said, becomes true to its name. It really is, even geographically, part of the center of downtown. Brent mentioned we've been assisted by some great talent, both nationally, internationally, and locally. And that's, I think, been a hallmark of why we feel so confident in some of the ideas that have come out. The feasibility study team was folks who came into Lexington over the summer, took a look at this facility, at the convention center, at the shops, and everything else that's going on here, try to get into the details, led by 3 firms, Global Spectrum, arena and convention center operator, MBBJ, Brent mentioned, an architect, and Skanska, which is an international construction firm, really looking at cost and schedule. They quickly identified that we've got a problem. We've got a challenge with our convention center, which was validated and confirmed in the Convention and Visitor Bureau study, that it needs to be slightly larger. We're missing out on certain conventions. I wouldn't consider an overly ambitious expansion. It's still relatively small for a city our size, but it needed to be expanded, which is difficult because of where it sits next to Rupp and with the Mary Todd Lincoln House on the western end. The same could be true for this facility. The more they looked at it, I think they, like most architects, came to this project and said, new would be better. There's a great opportunity here. And the longer they were here and the more we talked and the more we got into the details and the more they looked at this facility, they said, you know, really, this has great bones. It was built to last. It's got a history and a richness that can be celebrated. Maybe there's opportunities, but that would require expanding it as well. So that led to 4 kind of strategic options. Renovate what you have, which might be the cheapest in the short term, but could be argued would be the most expensive in the long term in terms of you're back in the same box literally that you've been in. Build a new arena in the High Street lot, which is the blue R, and renovate this portion of the Lexington Center into more convention space that we need. Or option C or D were variations of a theme. Instead of building a new arena, build a new convention center, either in the Cox Street lot to the west or the High Street lot to the south. I want to stress that we had a really collaborative relationship with the university, with UK Athletics, with the Kentucky High School Athletic Association, with concert promoters. A lot of discussion about what works about this facility and what doesn't. It's 35 years old. Like anything, it needs reinvestment. But some of the things were more pragmatic about how the technology works or how the locker rooms and was there a training room and other things. You've seen actually in the discussion of the new locker room, some of those were things that were all discussed and identified in the feasibility study. But then there's some more big picture things about allowing revenue from premium seating, the upper deck. The bleacher seats are particularly a challenge for the Kentucky High School Athletic Association and for concert promoters trying to sell tickets in the upper arena. So could we look at replacing that and redoing it? This is the image you may have seen before, which is an image of a reinvented Rupp. More seats in the lower arena, actually the ability with an expanded box to add more seats in the lower arena, which is good all the way around. A level of premium suiting, whatever the market would dictate, and that could change over time. If that's a club suite, if that's a so-called loge box where you kind of sit at a table, other opportunities to create additional amenities, and then basically a reconstructed upper deck that's all chair back seats. Modern technology, modern advertising, scoreboards, etc.